historic Oakwood Cemetery in Troy, New York. Now, as I stand here recording this, and by the way, this is the memorial bell, which is appropriate because I'm recording this on Memorial Day. And we're going to see a lot of notable graves in this cemetery. We're going to see the graves of several Civil War generals and also someone whose name has become synonymous with the United States. And this is a little preview. I like the way they have these little markers. Makes it easy to find the notable graves. Now, usually when I come to these cemeteries, I come by myself. Today my wife happens to be with me, and I asked her if she wanted to see this grave. She did. And this is an extremely famous American, Samuel Wilson. Now, you don't maybe recognize that name. His wife's name there is Betsy. But I think you will recognize the name he usually goes by. And here it is. Samuel Wilson is Uncle Sam. And how he got that name is kind of a complicated story, which is easily searchable, and maybe I'll just let you kind of Google that. But he used to supply pork and beef to the U.S. Army during the War of 1812. And he is buried here in Troy, New York. And this is not a war hero, but a hero nonetheless, Caroline Gilky Rogers. And I think this is appropriate for us to talk about. Of course, Memorial Day, we remember the fallen who were fighting for our freedoms. Caroline, known as Carrie to her friends and people close to her, she was a part of the suffragist movement and fought very hard for the rights of women, especially the right to vote. And she famously tried to vote when there was a question on the ballot, and it specifically said in 1885 in that question on the ballot that all tax-paying residents were invited to vote. And she was one, so she came to vote, and she was told, well, we didn't mean women. She testified about that in front of the state assembly, and she also spoke before Congress, and as this sign indicates, when she spoke before Congress, she was introduced by none other than Susan B. Anthony, and she was a great voice for women. All right, this is the gravesite of Colonel George Willard. The original marker. His wife by his side. Colonel Willard. Here's the marker, Grand Army of the Republic. Colonel Willard was put in charge of a brigade at the Battle of Gettysburg. And when a regiment from Mississippi made a charge towards an opening in the Union lines, Colonel Willard ordered a counterattack, and his men fixed bayonets, and they fought back, and they were successful. And Colonel Willard, when he was on his way back to Cemetery Ridge, where they were positioned, was struck by a Confederate shell in the head and killed instantly. And his body was brought back here to Troy, New York. Here it says a little bit about that. Killed on the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg. And this is the grave of Major General Joseph Bradford Carr. General Carr fought in many battles in the Civil War, including Fredericksburg and Chancellorsville. He actually commanded a division for part of that battle when the other commander was fatally wounded. And then he was promoted to brigadier general. He was cited for gallantry at Gettysburg. He was wounded during that battle, and his men very bravely and stubbornly held their ground near the peach orchard. Highly decorated career. All right, well, we're at an overlook here on the outskirts of the cemetery. You can look out over the city of Troy, and in fact, this football field here is part of Lansingburg High School. Lansingburg is part of Troy. And this valley that we're looking at has tons of history. That baseball field, I believe, down there, I'm pretty sure that's the field where my son's baseball team won a championship, where the final was played. Very exciting. And yeah, this valley is referred to as the Silicon Valley of the 19th century. Yeah, here is the sign that says that. And this sign points out a lot of points of interest, things of historical significance, but I would probably need a camera with a better zoom to stand here and point those things out. So we'll just enjoy the view and maybe look at a couple more graves before we head out. All right, we're walking over to an obelisk here, the sheer size of which says someone important is buried here. Yeah, Major General James E. Wool fought in multiple wars, so many battles, too many to name. I like how this refers to his wife Sarah as his excellent and worthy consort. And on this side, it mentions a few of those battles. He was responsible for the capture of Fort Monroe in Virginia during the Civil War. Well, this is pretty cool. You have to kind of get up close here to see this. Major General John E. Wool, as we look at this massive obelisk, he was the oldest general to actively be commanding troops in the Civil War on either side. So that's kind of interesting. And we are at a section of the cemetery, as you can see, as we look at this wreath on Memorial Day. And the flag up above. This section of the cemetery where many soldiers are buried of various rank and of different wars. This one just says World War. And you see sections like this at different cemeteries. Recently I was at the Albany Rural Cemetery to see the grave of Chester A. Arthur, buried nearby. And there was a section kind of similar to this. Come over here. Private, U.S. Army, World War II. Yeah. I like all the flags. Very nice. One final grave that we'll take a look at, Major General George Thomas. And here's the sign. He won many, many crucial victories for the Union Army in the Civil War. Was offered several promotions throughout his career that he turned down. He was very modest, and a lot of people believe he would have had notoriety beyond that of Ulysses S. Grant and William T. Sherman had he been a little less modest. He famously beat his own student at West Point in the Battle of Nashville. Crucial figure in the Civil War.